1. So a while back, I was coming home from a Halloween party. I'd gone in a police officer costume for no reason other than they let me keep the costume when I played a police officer in a safety video at work, so I didn't have to spend any money to go to the party. Plus, it was very high quality, convincing, and realistic. A network TV show had donated some old costumes since we do a lot of charity work with kids. I'd had a few too many, and by the time I'd left the party, I couldn't really tell you what I was dressed as, or where I was coming from, or where I was headed. I was just on autopilot, stumbling back to the bus stop home. As I was making my way, someone seemed like they were flagging me down. They were yelling, "Hurry, hurry, there's a couple fighting, and I think she's about to stab him, you have to come quick!" Still on autopilot, I ambled over in their direction. Not in any big rush, though. The girl was really floored and kept yelling at me. And I'll be damned, there was a fight going on. I wanted to say to the person who flagged me down, "How considerate of you to clue me in to this awesome fight so I can watch." But I wasn't feeling articulate enough, so I just kind of gave a thumbs up and watched the two people screaming at each other. It was a young man who looked as though he'd just been woken up and come down from his apartment, and a woman who was dressed for the clubs but looked a mess. They were screaming at each other, and she kept shoving him and making threats like, "It was always $50. Are you really gonna let me have to fuck you up over $50? Well, the guy just kept saying, "I'm not gonna argue with you, I'm not." It seemed like people were looking at me, but I didn't have the slightest idea why. Finally, the person who had flagged me down said, "Well, aren't you gonna, do something?" I was baffled and a bit flustered, but also confused. I was trying to make sense of the situation. Was I somehow involved in this altercation? Did I know these people? Did I cause this fight? But it was clear everyone expected something of me. So I decided the best course was to fake it until I made it. I charged over, doing my best impression of authority, while trying to place the face of either person in the argument. Can't remember exactly what I said, but I'm told it was along the lines of, Hey guys, chill. What's the matter? What's happening? Let's just talk." As I got closer, I saw the woman was holding her car key between her fingers and jabbing it out like she planned to stab the man with it. I just giggled and said, "Okay, first of all, that won't work. Haven't you seen World Star?" "Man, how are you letting her back you up with a car key? Come on. She couldn't open a can with those." I don't know the first thing about physical altercations. Sober me wouldn't be the slightest bit emboldened by street fighting videos I watch at 3 a.m., but apparently drunk me felt qualified to proffer advice. There was a moment of stunned silence as the bystanders wondered how I could be so ineffective, and the arguing people wondered whether or not I was going to arrest them. When it became clear I was as clueless as they were, the argument continued. Someone in the crowd said, "What? Did you hear that?" And someone else suggested, "We should call some other police like 911. I was thinking, what? Yeah, of course. Can't believe no one's called the police yet. This is really getting out of hand. Good idea, maybe I should call. But I got distracted by the guy going, "I paid you what you wrote. You can't go changing the price." And the girl was shrieking, "Don't bullshit me, Brian!" As she got closer and closer to him, and he had to dodge her crazy key hands. So I'm just slack-jawed watching them again, along with everyone else, when someone finally says, "Stop her! She's going to hurt him!" While looking directly at me, I wasn't sure why everyone seemed to want me to stop them, thinking to myself, or one of you guys could do something. You were here before me. But I figured I must be involved somehow, and not understand why, because everyone kept addressing me directly. Maybe I owed someone money. Maybe I chatted with one of them at the party. In any case, I was like, I've got to hang out with these people more often. They've got a lot more trust and respect for me than my other friends. I was feeling good from all this attention and everyone expecting me to be able to handle things. Finally, I mustered up the most authoritative voice I could and yelled, "Cut it out with the key, I told you already, that will not work." I had everyone quiet again, so that was a step forward. "Now what exactly is the problem going on here?" I asked. They started to explain, but they were both talking at once, and nothing they said gave me any better understanding as to how I was involved. So I finally just was like, "How do you two know each other?" And the guy said, "We're friends, we're good friends. She's just a little overreacting right now." In hindsight, the guy probably had some drugs on him, or some other reason to want the cops, or, in my case, people dressed as cops to go away, because he seemed terrified even as he was saying it was all fine. As best I could piece together, stopping the fight would make everyone happy. So I thought back to how my mom would break up an argument, and implored them, "Come on, guys, friends shouldn't be arguing this way. Let's go, whatever this is, we're gonna set it aside, we're gonna sleep on it. Until then, I want you to hug it out, come on." And I started ushering them into one another. I guess the girl didn't really want to deal with the people dressed as cops either, because though she begrudgingly put her keys down, she didn't go in for a hug. So rowdy drunk me was like, "Come on, hug, anything could happen, life is short, you could be dead tomorrow." This poor girl thought the police were threatening to kill her if she didn't comply with an order to hug it out. They hugged and I was like, "Alright, where are you guys from?" And the guy was like, "I'm staying here, this building here." And I was like, "Okay, then go home, you two need to cool off. And tomorrow maybe you'll have forgotten about this whole thing. You go too, go somewhere else," I said to the girl, vaguely gesturing away from the building. She started to say something about her $50, but I was tired and ready to go home, so I was like, "No, you can pick this up again tomorrow. You too, man. Go inside, get some sleep. It's late." You could hear the crowd whispering in confused awe as I watched the girl leave and watched the guy go inside, just yelling over them if they tried to start up again until they'd both cleared out, and then stumbling off myself. Then I went home, showered, passed out, and barely remembered any of it the next day. Just vaguely remembered talking to some people arguing on my way home. About a week later, I went to this friend's house again, and someone was there who had apparently been in the crowd. They were like, "Oh my goodness, you're the cop who broke up that fight in front of my building. Between you and me, I promise I'll keep it on the low, but were you drunk on the job? You seem trash. Were you off duty, or—" I told her I had no idea what she was talking about. The closest I had ever been to a street fight was watching World Star. She was like, "Yeah, you talked about watching World Star. So did you make them hug it out to mess with them, or is that like an actual thing they teach police to do to de-escalate things?" That got my attention, because what are the odds of someone who looked like me being in this area talking about World Star? And I didn't remember the people I talked to hugging. So I asked her to elaborate, and as she recounts the events, the whole thing started coming back to me. I was like, "Hey, yeah, that was me," and laughed, focused more on the breaking up a fight part, and not really registering the cop part. So my confused buddy was like, "Don't pull her leg like that, come on. They wouldn't let you be a cop in your best day." And I had to think about that for 1 second, because he was absolutely right. Finally, I put the pieces together and sheepishly explained the mix-up. We all had a good laugh over it, and I learned to never drink while dressed as someone it's illegal to impersonate, even accidentally, because you never know what could happen. 2. I work in a rent-a-car company, and my office is situated at a big entrance and exit of an underground car park. Now, I work alone in this office. It's a small, square, glass-walled office, pretty much in the corner of the entrance, and every day I get dozens of people who think this belongs to the park, and it's a place to pay for car tickets from inside the park. That's fine. I always tell people that no, this is a rent-a-car and I do not work for the park. But the place to pay is, insert the way here, and most people understand and thank me. Some look pissed off as if I just wasted their time. But that's okay. No biggie. Ironically, as I was typing this out, 3 people showed up asking me to do the payment for the tickets. Now, my boss ordered me to give out flyers at the entrance of the park. We got authorization from the park's owners, so now I pass most of my days just standing there, giving out flyers to every single car that shows up. And every time someone walks up to the office, I just walk back inside and, well, rent them a car. Pretty explanatory what I do. Now, the park's name is a very long name, and is not something you can easily confuse with my rent-a-car company's name. Plus, my work uniform is a super bright orange polo with the name of the company stamped right in the middle of my chest and my back, and this white that reflects the sunlight. This thing is 100% not easy to miss or get confused at all. Also, the name of the park is splattered in the entrance in a big welcome sign. And on this very hot sunny day, literally yesterday, while chilling and giving out my innocent flyers, this old man approached me. We'll call him Oaf, which stands for Old Fart. This happened in Portuguese, so I'm gonna do my best to translate.
Hey, you kid.
I'm 21, but sure, compared to him, I am a kid, I guess. Yes?
Here is my ticket, and €5. Go pay for it and bring it back fast.
Sir, I'm sorry, but I don't work for the park. I work in...
Oh, yeah, excuses. Shut up and do your job. That's what I'm paying you for.
I'm taken aback by how rude this old man just was. Sir, once again, I do not work for the park. I work for, I pointed the office, it's a rent-a-car.
Listen here, shitty kid. I'm 71 years old, and I know this conversation way better than you. You're just trying to avoid doing work because you think you are so smart. Now get me my ticket right now, or I'm getting you fired.
That escalated quickly. He used a lot of Portuguese swear words in the whole sentence, which I'm not even going to bother to put here because, yeah, Portuguese works that way, and it's not easy to translate. I understood there was not going to be any reasoning with this man, and I was very taken aback by how he just exploded on my face, and I just gave up trying to be reasonable, so, lol, no. Yeah, I say lol out loud sometimes, judge all you want.
Excuse me, I said now, you shitty kid.
I said no desinmerde-se, which literally means unshit yourself. That's a common Portuguese saying that pretty much means deal with it yourself. By this point, more people had gathered trying to calm the oaf down, while he kept on ranting how I was gonna get fired, and I would regret ever saying no to him, and how I was being a stupid kid, etc. One of the people calming him down walked up to me and asked why I refused to do the payment for the ticket, to which I just calmly replied, I do not work for the park. I work, point to the rent-a-car, there, which has nothing to do with the park. Look. I pointed at my shirt's name, pointed at the store's name in the big glass window, and then at the big board with the park's name. See? I'm not refusing to make a payment. I literally don't work for the park. The bystander looked at me and apologized, then turned back to the oaf and just said, Okay, Grandpa, let's go. He clearly doesn't work for the park. As they were walking the oaf away, I could still hear him shout and scream swears at me as they echoed from inside the park. I told my boss what happened. A few hours later, and he just laughed, telling me why didn't I tell the oaf to suck it and F off sooner. My boss is great. 3. This happened a few months ago in May, just before all the protesting began, and just after everyone seemed to collectively determine, the virus is now gone, hooray! Unlike most of the idiots in my area, though, I was still maintaining social distancing and isolation and wearing my mask. Character sheet. Me, your Lord and Savior, MK, Maskless Karen, AJ, the Harbor Master, and Dave, Security. So for those who don't know, I make canvas coverings for boats. I make everything from fabric seat covers to full enclosures with plexiglass sewn in. Unfortunately for me, while all the sewing can be done without coming into contact with others, and the materials can be ordered and shipped to my shop, I still have to go into the out in order to take measurements, make templates, and do the fittings. I do make it a point to ensure that my clients are not on their boats when I'm doing my work, though. Now, on this fateful day, I happened to be on one of my clients' boats, finishing up the template for a cover for the front windshield, as well as the bow hatch. Minding my own business and enjoying a fantastic audiobook, I saw MK out of the corner of my eye, cropped haircut and all, just staring at me. Paying no mind to her, I wrapped up my templates and began gathering my things. As I was putting the templates into my toolbox, I felt a knocking on the boat. I looked up to see an angry MK whose lips wouldn't stop moving for a few minutes, making exaggerated gestures with her arms towards me while standing right next to my client's boat. Mostly continuing to ignore her, I grabbed the last of my tools. Then, taking my time, I turned off my audiobook and took out my earbuds. Immediately, I began wishing I hadn't.
Incompetent bastards!
Beg your pardon? Do you need something of me, miss?
Did you not hear a word I said?
I did not. Want to repeat yourself without yelling? She folds her arms as if to speak down to me.
I said you marina people need to hurry up and fix my boat. I already called your office. Told you we were leaving tomorrow and have to get the engine working.
not a mechanic, don't work for the marina, and the marina doesn't fix—
Don't talk back to me, you lazy shit. You get down to my boat and fix it this instant, or I'm gonna talk to the manager. We're best friends, and he's gonna fire you.
You mean the harbor master, AJ?
Well, of course.
Fine, let's go talk to AJ. She storms ahead as I grab my things and begin making our way to the office. I let her walk several paces ahead because she's a maskless covidiot. As we get up to the office, a young blonde woman in a marina uniform walks out of the building. Of course, MK takes the opportunity to run further ahead of me while screaming and pointing at me. Taking my time, I catch the tail end of her tirade.
Your manager now, have this imbecile fired and go fix my effing boat.
I thought you said you and AJ were best friends.
Of course we are, but I need this stupid bimbo to go get him.
But you're talking to her.
No, I need— Wait, what?
Right here. She taps her name tag that says AJ, Harbor Master. MK is completely stunned, stood there, mouth agape, looking back and forth between AJ and I. Sorry about this mess, sweetheart, but I gotta split.
No, you get back here and do your job.
She reached out as I was walking away and grabbed a hold of my wrist, quite tightly, I might add. Now, I don't like confrontations very much. I don't like interacting with people in general. And I really don't like being touched, especially by maskless idiots. But this douche had already interrupted my audiobook time, screamed at me for several minutes, and I would threaten my health, so I feel a little justified. Breaking her grasp on me, I placed her in a little wrist lock and proceeded to take her to the ground. Multiple times she tried to turn her head and spit on me, calling me a liberal sheep, and how I'm an idiot for believing in a fake disease. Because I was wearing a mask in between her screeches of pain and agony, because of the mild discomfort by me holding her hand. AJ went and grabbed Dave, and he escorted MK off the property, never to be allowed to return. Thank God for private marinas. She went kicking and screaming how I needed to be arrested or executed for trying to kidnap and rape her or something. Never saw MK again, thank God. Apparently AJ cancelled her mortgage, so I've got no idea what's happened since. Seriously, some boat people are nuts. A lot of trailer trash kind of folks around here have boats for the same reason they have Cadillac SUVs. At work and on social media, it makes them look wealthy when in reality, they're stuck making payments on a stupidly large loan for the next 20 years. But the attitude is so much worse than the rich folks they're trying to imitate. As if all the wealthy folks are so snobby. 4. Character sheet. ED entitled Dad, QW Quiet Wife. C1 and C2 the offsprings, 15-ish and 13-ish respectively. P1 and P2 the cops, me, yours truly. Background information. So I work on boats during the summer, making or repairing the canvas coverings for them. Some of the coverings are just fabric, some also have the plexiglass panel sewn into them. As I mentioned in the previous story, I'll patch the fabric, zippers, velcro. Can normally be done in an hour per panel. Doing glass replacement takes a few hours per panel. Creating a fabric-only cover from scratch can take a day per panel. Doing a glass cover can take 2 or more days per panel. This is just the sewing part, not accounting for the time it takes to take measurements and create a template, or waiting for specialty materials to arrive. Time-consuming work, but it pays enough for college tuition and cost of living during the school year. Also, most of my work is acquired by word of mouth. People see me in a marina attaching canvas to a boat, or customers recommend me to their friends. As a one-man operation, I have quite a lot of work even without any proper advertising or retail location. To the point where my wait times can be up to 6 weeks. So to ensure that no client waits longer than another, I require a 50% deposit prior to starting the work. The deposit gets them a spot in line, and the rest of the payment comes when I deliver the canvas. Now on to the story. So about a year ago, pre-COVID, on a warm summer Wednesday night, I was outfitting one of my clients with a full rear enclosure for their 65-foot boat, 9 glass panels. the most expensive plexiglass, the thickest canvas I could find, etc. All round, I made ballpark $11,000, including the cost of materials. It's the piece I'm most proud of out of all my work. As I was leaving, my client mentioned that someone came asking about getting some work done in their canvas, and they recommended me, and told them I'd stop by on my way out. I thought, well, why not? I'm already here, and it shouldn't take too long, right? So I went over, introduced myself and all that, and asked about the work they wanted done. C1, C2, and QW were quietly talking amongst themselves on the back deck as I spoke to the entitled dad. I talked about my work and pointed at some of my other clients in the marina to show them the quality. Wow, your canvas is fantastic. How much would it cost to redo my back deck and fly bridge, which is the top deck, enclosure? Well, if you want me to make a new canvas from scratch and not try and repair your old stuff, it'll probably be $900 to $1,100 per panel, depending on the materials. So for 15 panels, 15,000-ish? 15,000. That's a third the price of my boat. Well, you could go with cheaper glass that isn't perfectly rigged, but it won't look as nice or last as long. He goes and speaks with his wife briefly before returning. We'll do the more expensive stuff since we want it to last. We're leaving on Saturday to go on a family trip for a week, so you'll need to be done by Saturday. I stand there for 15 seconds trying to process what he just asked me to do in such little time. Okay, so there's currently a 3-week-long wait list, and in order to get in line, I'll need a 50% deposit after... What kind of criminal operation is this? Trying to extort me 50%, then make me wait a month? Are you trying to starve my kids? I won't pay you a penny until I get my canvas. Look, man, I'm not getting into this. 50% is standard price. And even if there wasn't a waiting list, it would take 3 or 4 weeks to do all your canvas. 50% is not standard practice, and I will not sit around for 2 months while you do my canvas. I will have it by Saturday. You know what, I'm good actually. You keep the money and find someone else. Edie did not take this well, as you might imagine. He proceeded to screech his lungs off incoherently at his quiet wife, until she went inside the cabin with the kids and slammed the door on him. Meanwhile, a couple people started wandering over to the scene, whilst I tried to walk away. Edie, of course, noticed me trying to leave. Hey, throw me away 84103, get back here, and make my canvas you. And then he used an expression that gentlemen only use on Tuesdays. Edie proceeds to run past me, standing in my way, trying to stop me from leaving. He continues his screaming tirade about how I have to make his canvas for him now, how I'm discriminating against him, etc. A fairly sizable crowd is now formed, mostly the liveaboard folks who live on their boat as their primary residence, who all know me pretty well. Not wanting any more confrontation, I again try to leave, just trying to slip past Edie. Edie takes this as a slight against himself, I guess, and shoves me backwards, while going on about how he's gonna beat me to a pulp. Almost fell in the water, but I managed to catch one of the mooring lines holding the boat next to me. I should note that I'm fairly small, and being Asian normally entails about 5'6" and 120 pounds. Edie was a head taller and probably 50 pounds more. I'm also pretty sure someone called the cops at this point, as Edie continued to yell about kicking my ass. I was tired after a long day of working, and I really wasn't in the mood for this. So when Edie came running at me head-on, I brought my knee up, nailed him in the tenders, and continued walking out to my car. Got in the car, cried a little, and just waited for the cops. Once they arrived, I told them what happened, and we walked out to the docks. Edie was curled up on the ground, being a drama queen, and droning on about how I nearly killed him. Thank God you're here, officers! Arrest that guy! He just tried to kill me and steal my boat! Police Officer 1 got Edie's statement, and then went around taking statements from a few of the witnesses, while Police Officer 2 tried to keep Edie from being any more melodramatic. Police Officer 1 came back to me, asking if I wanted to press charges, which I most certainly did. Edie sees Police Officer 1 walking over to him. Yes, officer, I want to press charges. Too bad, you're under arrest for assault and for making false statements to a police officer. Please shut up now for everyone's sake, says Police Officer 2. They let him off with probation, but he's since moved his boat to another marina, hopefully far away. 5. Quick disclaimer that despite the subject of the 2020 elections, this is not a story to submit a personal political stance in any way. So I work for a third-party election company, which basically means we work with clients from various organizations set up and host elections from voting in the new board of directors, or agreeing on a company bylaw change. Things like that. It's a small but good company to work at, and my co-workers are great. Now, something I always interject quickly when I tell people I work for an election company is that, no, we don't deal with the presidential or any federal election. We are not affiliated or owned by the government, so that's not our big, ugly blobfish to fry. One of the things I do at my job is help with customer support, which mostly entails going in to resend the ballot to clients' members that need it, or if the voters need assistance with voting online. Our support number is usually found on our own website, or when our clients inform their members of election information, they will usually provide our support number. Most I don't work here lady type calls are usually from people thinking that we are one of our clients and not a third-party company hired to aid their election. A common misunderstanding, and most people just quickly apologize and hang up when explained. Surprisingly, even with the 2020 federal election around the corner, we rarely get anyone calling assuming we work in that. But like I said, we are a small company, and definitely not the first number to come up when you Google for assistance in the federal elections. But that doesn't mean it never happens. Like a few days back, I get a call on our support line and answer with our company name. "This is customer support." An older-sounding woman answers. She asks about mailing in her ballot, but says her mailbox has been destroyed. Now, one of the first questions I try to ask is what election is she trying to vote for, but I can't get a damn word in. For anyone who had worked for a certain amount of time in customer support, you've probably dealt with callers like this every so often. The usually older folks who are either lonely or narcissistic enough to want to talk to a random CSR about goddamn anything and everything in their lives, not getting to the point of the call, and not letting the rep get a damn word in either. This woman goes on and on explaining her situation, what state she's from, the fact that she lives in a bad area. She starts talking about her family, like her kids and grandkids, even mentioning the fact that little Zeke turned 5 last week. I don't even remember most of what she said at this point because it was a stream load of insane and irrelevant talk. But I do eventually piece together that she is trying to vote in the federal elections, after she mentions the party she is registered in and the candidate she voted for. She talks for 5 minutes straight before I'm finally allowed to interject. I ask to confirm that she is asking about the federal ballot for the 2020 elections. In hindsight, it was my first mistake not to directly say she has the wrong number, because it's another 5 minutes of her talking about what, honestly, I don't remember because my brain started blocking out her voice and replaced it with the sound of my own internal screaming. When I'm finally able to reply, I quickly and firmly explain that this number is not for the 2020 election. We are not affiliated with the government. And I'm sorry, but she has the wrong number. I think it took another 2 minutes for that information to actually process through her brain, because she basically picks up from where she left off in her own monologue of information. I'm able to reiterate the same thing again before she finally realizes I can't help her. She starts to get a little huffy about it and says, "I've donated X amount of money," to a recent client of ours. "I've donated a lot of money." It clicks in my brain where she was able to get her support line. She mentioned a client that had recently had an election we helped with not long back. I realized she must have saw that information given to her when they opened their election, and whatever single-digit amount of brain cells left in her head came to the conclusion that we did that election, so we must do all elections. The conversation has been at least 10 minutes, and honestly, if she hung up there, I would probably have just rolled my eyes and forgot about it later. But it was the last 15 seconds. The last 15 bomb timer ticking seconds that left my brain in a blue screen state for the remainder of the day. She sounds a bit annoyed at this point and asks, "It says you guys are in X state. Yes, that's where our office is located.
So you guys aren't by the border?
No?
Well, I live in a southern border state, and you should all be grateful where you are. You don't have to deal with theft, vandalism, and torture. I've been tortured before, many times. You know the CIA? They condone torture. Have a good day.
And she hangs up. I think I stared at the phone for a good few minutes, trying to even begin to process what in the good Lord's name just happened. A day or two later, me and my coworker are talking about crazy calls we had with our supervisor when I brought up that story. Supervisor responds, "Oh my God, you poor thing." And my coworker responds, "Okay, your story takes the cake." Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Idiots in the Wild, episode 23. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Well, that took me how long? Let's see. It took me about an hour and a half to mellow out there. I had, you get a bunch of little things just kind of piling on top of you. Individually, they're fine, but one after the other, then you just have a little bit of a blowout. That's what I was today, but I'm okay now. I think the isolation's getting to me. I'm a very isolation-y person. Also got the delightful news that there's been a slight spike in cases, and since the schools went back, there's at least one pupil in my town who, as a result of a house party, Jeebus Christ, has gotten the dreaded sickness. Okay, I'm not going to grumble too much. I'm going to be happy, chill, mellow freezer. I'm going to head off, and I'm going to start work on the next video. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.